Hello everyone, myself Dr. Usha Vyas. Today my topic is a note on Shakespearean tragedy. Tragedy is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude in language embellished with each other kind of artistic ornament through pity and fear, affecting the catharsis of such emotions, said Aristotle in the Poetics. This definition seems to have tremendously influenced the European dramatists of Europe. However, Shakespeare, who had no more than common schooling, did not follow any set pattern or formula. In some of his earlier tragedies, we do notice some influence of Seneca, the mysteries, and the moralities of the Middle Ages, as well as by Marlowe and Kidd. But by the time he came to write the greatest of his tragedies, Macbeth, Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, he had outgrown all those influences. At the outset, it must be stated that Shakespeare had no set conception of tragedy nor had any philosophy thereof. According to Professor Bradley, he had only a sense for tragedy, not a philosophy of it. However, says Bradley, we can be able to descend on certain well-built principles which underlie almost every Shakespearean tragedy. To begin with, a Shakespearean tragedy is the story of one man, the hero who stands like a colossus beside other characters. Unlike the Greek tragedy, which had a fewer characters, usually 4 or 5, apart from the chorus, a Shakespearean tragedy brings before us a much large number of characters as also unfolds much vaster parameters of space and time, contrary to the Aristotle's principle of three unities. Inclusion of a large number of dramatis personae does not reduce the stature of the principal characters, and the stage directions and lights continue to focus on them. Minor characters do have some role to play to enhance the movement of the plot or to add meaning to the story. No character in Shakespearean tragedy can be eliminated. Even the clowns have some definite role to play. A Shakespearean tragedy is always a story of one man, the hero who undergoes nerve-wracking experience or a great deal of suffering culminating in death. The hero in a Shakespearean tragedy is always a man of outstanding social status, much above average men. Mostly the heroes are kings, nobles, princes, or very high officials. For example, in King Lear and Julius Caesar, we have kings. In Hamlet, we have a prince. In Macbeth, both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are nobles to begin with. Othello is general of the Venetian forces. This is his conception of the tragic hero as belonging to royal nobility. Shakespeare confronts to the tradition of the ancient Greek. In the ancient Roman tragedy, as handled by Seneca, and even the final conception of the Middle Ages, as expressed by Charles Monk. Shakespeare seems to follow the definition given by the monk. He has given heart. His heroes are of a higher degree. Why did Aristotle why did Aristotle or the monk made a case for a man of high degree? Perhaps he felt that the greater man show much more stunning and effective in his fall. Bradley observes that Shakespearean conception of tragic hero is that his fall is bewildering and conspicuous as contrasted to his former propriety. Aristotle had mentioned the word hamartia or tragic error, which brings about the fall of the hero. We must at the same time add that Greeks believed in destiny, and Greek tragedy is that the tragedy of Shakespeare does not conform to this view. Character is destiny, and this governs all the tragedies of Shakespeare. Of course, there are other factors contributing, such as chance, accident, external forces, etc. Hamlet's brood too much, Macbeth is ambitious, and Othello is jealous. In Macbeth, we have the witches, and Lady Macbeth, we have many chance factors. And conflict is the essence of a Shakespearean tragedy. The conflict is both external as well as internal. In the internal, the hero is tragically pitted against external forces and antagonists. In Othello, we have Iago, the villain, who gives no pause to Othello to reflect. Macbeth is the internal conflict is more terrible. It's a conflict between the soul and the soul of the hero. Some such conflict can be witnessed in the soliloquies. In Othello, the conflict is primarily internal. The Greek tragedy does not necessarily end in death, but Shakespearean tragedies end in death of the hero or the heroine. It also speaks of the moral order of the universe, which Shakespeare dramatist depicts how the harmony of the world is disturbed and re-established with the death of the hero, as well as the negation of the forces in Othello. If Othello murders Desdemona and stabs himself, the arch villain meets much more violent death by torture, and the order is re-established in Cyprus with Cassio in command. In all cases, heroes of Shakespeare do realize the grave error, and then they win our sympathy. In the end, Macbeth realizes what life actually is. A tale told by an idiot. Lady Macbeth dies of mental perturbation which overtakes her. Othello realizes his grave crime, but it is too late. When he realizes the meaninglessness of life, he stabs himself and falls upon the dead Desdemona. We cannot exactly clarify our final impression, whether it is pity and fear that are aroused, or it is just a mere sense of waste of time that we feel at the end. In fact, Shakespeare's tragedies cannot be categorized in watertight compartments. Such tragedy has a finale which leaves the audience with a feeling which includes pity, sympathy, and we tend to remark how wasteful the life is. A genius is not bound by rules, he formulates his own rules and depicts life as he sees it. It would be a vain exercise to evaluate Shakespearean tragedies on Aristotelian scale, or for that matter, any other set of rules. He unfolds the profound truths of life, and as critics, we should examine his tragedies in terms he himself creates. This is all for today. Thanks for watching.